between the cerebrum at this part and the diencephalon in this part, and the main parts of the diencephalon is hypothalamus. So all of the curved structures that you are seeing in green color, in blue color, we call them limbic system. I told you between my speeches that the limbic system working in controlling of the emotion, behavior, and also the memory. It has several parts. We started, the number one is subcallosal gyrus. I told you in the class, sub means below or inferior. We called it subcallosal gyrus. Gyrus means a part of the cerebral cortex, and subcallosal means below the corpus callosum. The callosal came from the corpus callosum. Here we have the subcallosal gyrus. After that we have this part, cingulate gyrus. I told you the cingulate gyrus, the upper part is cingulate sulcus, and in the lower parts of the cingulate gyrus we have corpus callosum connecting between the two cerebral hemisphere. We have the cingulate gyrus, it is curved, and after that we have the isthmus, and after that we have parahippocampal gyrus. You are seeing the green color here. These are one part of the limbic system. Another part, I told you, the parahippocampal gyrus. If you remember, I told you in the inferior surface of the cerebrum, I told you we have orbital part, anterior to lateral sulcus, and posterior to the lateral sulcus, we have tentorial part or temporo-occipital part. I told you the medial part of the temporal, we called it parahippocampal gyrus. You can see parahippocampal gyrus here. The next one is hippocampal formation. The hippocampal formation and dentate gyrus are the hippocampal formation. I will tell you in the next slide. The next one, amygdaloid nucleus. If you remember, I told you we have the basal ganglia. Let me show to you. We have the basal ganglia. One of the basal ganglia is caudate nucleus. I told you if you find the caudate nucleus and then continue and find the tail of the caudate nucleus, you reach to amygdaloid nucleus, this one. And also you can see the amygdaloid nucleus in the inferior surface of the cerebrum. If you find the parahippocampal gyrus and go anterior and anterior, you can find the uncus of the temporal lobe, and in the depth of the uncus we can find amygdaloid nucleus. I hear the sound. Let me check. You are seeing? Yes, Zainab, say salam. Hi to everyone. Okay. The next part is mammillary body. If you remember, I told you the mammillary body related to diencephal. In the diencephal, I told you one of the main part is hypothalamus. From the anterior to posterior, we have chiasma optique, then we have infundibulum and tuberous neuron, and after that we have mammillary body. The mammillary body is located here, and it is one part of the limbic system. And the next one, anterior thalamic nucleus. Do you remember I told you by means of several white matter, we have, for example, we have striatum zonola, which covers the superior surface of the thalamus, and also we have external medullary lamina, which covers the external surface, and also we have internal medullary lamina. By means of internal medullary lamina, let me show to you here. Look at here. This is the picture of the thalamus. I told you we have internal medullary lamina. It is Y-shaped in English. We have anterior nuclei of thalamus, medial nuclei, and the lateral nuclei of the thalamus. The anterior part of the thalamus is one of the main parts of limbic system. So we came back to limbic system. These are all of the structures which taking part in making the limbic system. We continue. The first one is hippocampal formation. The hippocampal formation, you are hearing these words for the first time. The hippocampal formation is the curved elevation of the gray matter. You are seeing here. We have several structures that work with hippocampus. At the first, you must know about the location of the hippocampus. Where is the location of the hippocampus? The hippocampus extends in the floor of the inferior horn of lateral ventricle. Look at here. This one is the view for the lateral ventricle. I told you before in previous session. We have anterior horn, we have body, posterior horn, and also we have inferior horn for lateral ventricle. The hippocampus located in the floor of the inferior horn of lateral ventricle. So it is a location for the hippocampus. Okay. If we continue, another name for hippocampus is the seahorse because it is similar to the shape of seahorse, one animal in the sea. The anterior part of the hippocampus is pes hippocampus. You can see the word pes hippocampus, the anterior part of hippocampus. If we continue and if we came to posterior parts, look at here, this one is anterior part, we call it pes hippocampus. If we go to the posterior part, tell me, what is this part? The great or the big connection between the two cerebral hemisphere. Let me, what is this? Tell me, I'm checking your answers. What is this structures? This one. What is this structures? Taking part in the class. Mustafa, tell me. Ayagandur, I know your names. No, this is not third ventricle. I told you, this is the big connection between the cerebral hemisphere. What was the name? In Persian, we called it Jesm Pinei. What is the name in English? This part. I told you if you bring out the cerebrum, yes, Sohrab, that's true. Corpus callosum. The corpus callosum, this one. Okay, this one, the corpus callosum, connecting the two cerebral hemisphere. Okay, so I told you, if you came to anterior part of the hippocampus, you reach to pes hippocampus. If you continue and go to posterior part, you reach to beneath or below the posterior parts of corpus callosum. The posterior part of the corpus callosum, we called it splenium of the corpus callosum. So the posterior parts of the hippocampus will reach to beneath the splenium of the corpus callosum. So this is the location of the hippocampus. Another word is dentate gyrus. The dentate gyrus is located here. You are seeing this is the shape of the dentate gyrus. Okay, the dentate gyrus is the gray matter. Where is the location of this part? It is located between the hippocampus and parahippocampal gyrus. Okay, so the dentate gyrus is located between the hippocampus and parahippocampal gyrus. And also I told you about the parahippocampal gyrus before. So these are the names that you are seeing at the picture. We continue. I told you these are the structures that working with the limbic system. So it must have connection to make, for example, to doing something related to emotion, behavior, okay? So it must have connection to another parts. We have several words, I tell you the definition for them. Alveus, fimbria, I told you before, fornix, mammillothalamic, and stereoterminalis. I will tell you again. The first one, alveus. What is the alveus? This is the thin layer of white matter. Thin layer of white matter. So the matter is white. And it is covering the superior surface of the hippocampus. Look at this part. This one is the hippocampus. Imagine that, for example, you have a cell phone and you have a cover in the superior surface of your cell phone. This one is alveus. The alveus coming together and make a compression, make a compaction in the medial border of the hippocampus. We call it fimbria. So the fimbria is the compaction of the alveolus. And also I told you the alveolus is the thin layer of white matter covering the superior surface of hippocampus. So you know about the alveolus and fimbria. Look at here. I told you before we have something we called it fornix. By means of fornix, I told you in previous session, connecting the hippocampus, this part, to hypothalamus. So, and also I told you, let me show it to you, this one, fornix. I told you it has posterior columns and also anterior columns. The posterior columns of the fornix started from which part? Started from this part of hippocampus, from fimbria. Okay, so if you find the fimbria, I told you the medial compaction of the white matter. If you continue the fimbria, you reach to crus of the fornix. Which crus of the fornix? Posterior crus of the fornix. Okay, if you have question, you can ask. So this part is the hippocampus. We have the alveolus and fimbria. And if you continue the fimbria, you reach to posterior columns of the fornix, this part. And if you continue the fornix into anterior part, you reach to hypothalamus. And also I told you before, the fornix, the function of the fornix is connecting hippocampus of one side to hypothalamus of the same side. And also I told you, we have longitudinal fibers and transverse fibers. By means of longitudinal, connecting the hippocampus to hypothalamus, and by means of the transverse fibers, connecting the hippocampus of one side to hippocampus of another side. These are the connection between the two sides. I told you about the alveolus, fimbria, and fornix. Okay, I told you here. And also, if you find the dentate gyrus here and continue and go to posterior side, you reach to something we called it indusium griseum. You are seeing the words indusium griseum. What is the matter of the indusium griseum? This is a thin layer of gray matter. What is the function? Covering the superior surface of corpus callosum. You are seeing this part, the Sohrab told us. This one is the corpus callosum. The anterior part, we called it rostrum, genio, body, and the splenium of the corpus callosum. The superior surface of the corpus callosum is covering by something we called it indusium griseum. And if we continue the indusium griseum, we reach to dentate gyrus, one main important structures which is related to hippocampus and working in hippocampal formation. These are the definition for alveolus, fimbria, dentate gyrus, and also the indusium griseum. I told you. Look at that. This slide. You are seeing. I told you we have the lateral ventricles in each side here and also here. You cannot see. And here, this part is the anterior parts of the hippocampus. We call it pes hippocampus. Then we have the hippocamp. And also I told you the compaction, and here we have the dentate gyrus between hippocampus and parahippocampal gyrus, and also the compaction of the white matter, we have the fimbria. If we continue the fimbria, we reach to posterior columns of the fornix. And by means of longitudinal fibers connecting the hippocampus to hypothalamus, and by means of the transverse fibers, this part connecting the hippocampus of one side to hippocampus of another side, because we must have connection in different parts of one cerebral hemisphere, and also we must have connection in one cerebral hemisphere to another part, for example, right side to left side. We have important circuits related to the limbic system. We call it Papez circuit. What does it mean? The Papez circuit involving in emotional behavior and also the memory. The children, when the children plays in, for example, park in forest, they use something we call it boomerang. They send it and it will came back to their hands. We started from this part. The PAPA circuit started from the hippocampus. You are seeing, I'm showing to you. It is started from the hippocampus. It goes